Welcome to On the Spot, a brand new podcast brought to you by Internal Communications here at Portland Community College. This is where we get straight to the answers about the questions you, our PCC employees, want to know most about. Every episode, we dive into topics that you have submitted, whether it's about the college operations, our community, or the amazing people behind the scenes. And the best part? Each episode is short, sweet, and to the point. It's perfect for a quick listen during your day. Episodes will be released every 2 weeks, so make sure you're subscribed. I'm your host, Danielle Gabriel, Director of Marketing at PCC. Hello, everyone. Today, our guest is Sarah Rose Evans, Strategic Planning Manager. Sarah will be here today to talk to us about our strategic planning process. Hey, Sarah, thanks for joining us in our studio today.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get started and jumping into these meaty strategic planning questions, can you give us a little bit more of a background about you and how long you've been with PCC?
Sure. I've been at the college for about 10 years in 4 different roles across the college. I've worked in as an instructional administrative assistant. I worked in advising. I worked in public and government relations, and now I'm doing strategic planning.
And how long have you been involved in the strategic planning process?
I was invited to participate in the strategic planning process in January of 2020. We imagined that we would have a strategic plan in June of 2020, and then some things intervened in that plan.
So what are some of the main priorities of PCC's new strategic plan and the themes that have been identified?
Well, I'm really proud of the work that we did in the last strategic plan, but something I'm really excited about is making it a much more participatory process. In the past, strategic planning invited a steering committee, and those people worked really hard for a really long time. And in this strategic plan, we're really focusing on providing multiple touch points for input all throughout the process to make it more of a grassroots effort. And we've really done a lot of work in the last couple of months working on developing goals and objectives in each functional area of the college. There are 4 functional areas for academic affairs, student affairs, the office of the executive vice president, and the office of the president, so that everyone is doing all of this planning work, and it's all aligned with the themes that were identified, which arose from the input people gave last spring. And so even if a goal of a division isn't included in the strategic plan, it's still in alignment and it's still important work that will be moving forward.
And how are you coordinating all of that? Because that sounds like a lot of different input from a lot of different people.
Yeah, it's really great that so many more people are involved and that each division is mapping their top 5 imperatives, the things that they absolutely have to do, and then communicating that all the way up to the heads of the college units as we select the most broad goals and objectives for the entire college.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because my next question was going to touch on that a little bit. You know, at PCC, people have been doing a lot of new initiatives, and there's been a lot of different planning processes over the last few years. And I'm sure people struggle with the difficulty to prioritize that and make sense of how all of it fits together. So I was curious as how the strategic plan, the new strategic plan might put those pieces together in a way that is successful for everyone.
Well, I think in the past we've had some very broad aspirational goals of, equity was one theme at one point where people were just supposed to think about how their goals might align. And the last strategic plan, we really moved more towards tactical operationalizing of those strategic, making actual projects, devoting resources to it. So it feels appropriate that the next stage is to just make it as wide and deep as we can, so that all the planning efforts, even if they're smaller, are moving more towards an integrated approach, so that we have different levels of planning all the way out throughout the college, but they're all pointing in the same direction.
On that, dovetailing into that a little bit more, so one of the key themes is operational excellence. Can you share what that means in practical terms for PCC and how that may shape some of the day-to-day operations?
Yeah, I think that there's an enormous opportunity as we implement the Workday new ERP system to make things a lot more automated and efficient, have a system rather than a lot of Google Docs and spreadsheets that are floating around that people may or may not have access to. So I'm really excited about all of the ways in which we can become more efficient and effective. I think that we're seeing a lot of opportunities in many areas of the college to develop projects around operational excellence, whether it's through training, whether it's through onboarding. I'm excited about the things that are coming.
And then next, the strategic plan also highlights holistic student support. How is this approach different from potentially what we've done in the past? And what changes might students and staff expect to see?
Well, holistic student support arose out of the strategic planning data that we gathered in our input sessions. And I think that's something that we saw over and over again. It was interesting because we collected the faculty and the student data in two separate areas, and they really mirrored each other, which I think goes to show that our staff and faculty really understand our students, are in touch with what they need. And over again in the input that we got, we saw that we really need a holistic wraparound approach for the non-traditional student, talking about food, housing insecurity, talking about childcare, talking about scheduling for in the evenings or the weekends. And there were a lot of students who said, I really want to come to school, but it just doesn't work with my schedule. So how can we make it better? I think there was a lot of urgency in the strategic planning feedback, both from staff and faculty and from students, about how we can position ourselves to make sure that every student succeeds regardless of how they show up.
Do you think that is different from the way that we have approached student support in the past, or is it just more comprehensive now and taking it into a broader perspective?
I think it's absolutely more comprehensive, and we're looking at intersections across the different areas of the college so that we're all aligned and moving together. And I think that comes back to that operational excellence of like making sure that we've got systems that make sense to people and that they're consistent no matter where you are.
Yeah, because it sounds like, I think we can probably all agree that we support holistic student support as people who work at this college, but how we all coordinate that amongst ourselves and execute on it probably varies differently with resources. So having a more streamlined way to enable staff to support students and have students be supported will be great for everybody.
Yeah, and providing the training that people need so that people have there's consistent understanding of what's available for students.
The next component of the strategic plan is technological transformation. How do you think that will affect the tools and systems used across the college?
Well, I mentioned Workday earlier. That's going to be a huge one. And we're also looking at data practices and how we can build up the infrastructure to make data-informed decision-making accessible for people across the college so that they know and understand how to access the tools that we have and then implement them when they're making decisions. I think that's going to be a big component of the technological transformation, in addition to all of the work that's been done by the amazing Workday team.
Yeah, and I would venture to guess that Workday will help orchestrate all of this in a little bit more of a streamlined way.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the last part of the strategic plan components are community engagement. So from your perspective, what does this mean for how PCC partners with local organizations and how it may influence our role in the broader community?
Well, I think we have a ton of different touch points in different areas of the college. We've got CTE programs that have amazing industry connections. We've got work opportunities, community-based work opportunities, I think that they're called. And then we have a lot of the outreach through our community organizations and our governmental officials. And so it's just a matter, I think, of making it all coordinated and making sure that one part of the college is aware of what the other part of the college is doing.
So, Sarah, before we jump into each individual component of the strategic plan, can you talk about the 6 different priorities that the strategic plan will be covering?
Yeah, we saw a lot of information in the feedback from staff, faculty, students, and community partners, and it rose 6 big themes came out of that. Starting with operational excellence, we also have technological transformation. We've got academic excellence and holistic student support. And then we have community relations and there's shared values. Shared values is, we had a lot of people talk about how they wanted to improve working conditions at PCC and really create connection and empowerment for our employees. So that is the feedback that gave rise to the shared values theme.
Talking a little bit more about shared values, I know you mentioned that was a result of a lot of different feedback from the community and from PCC employees. So how do you think that shared values impact the culture at PCC, and how do you see the steps from the shared values part of the strategic plan being integrated into all departments?
I think we're going to see a lot of changes, and I think we're going to see a partnership between our shared values and the importance of integrity and accountability and doing what we say we're going to do, partnered with the technological transformation that comes from Workday and the improved efficiencies through our systems. So it's important that we both consider the human part of the change as well as the technological change as we shift some of our processes and systems. So the shared values is really about tending to that sense of connection and belonging for both employees and students, and making sure that those values are woven through each of the goals, each of the goals, the objectives, and then the projects that arise out of those goals and objectives.
That makes sense. And as you said, I think you're probably right in the fact that with the technological transformation that happens, it'll also automatically align us all a little bit more from the employee side. And hopefully that coupled with access to data will help us all feel a little bit less siloed and a little bit more connected in an efficient manner, instead of, like you said, sifting through Google Docs and Google Sheets and et cetera. We'll be able to share data more easily and freely, which will probably make us all feel a little bit more streamlined and on the same page just to begin with.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of intersections between our different themes, and we definitely can see it. We want operationally to be more efficient, and we can do that through technological transformation and the support of the people who are powering that change through our shared values.
So if employees or people in the PCC community are interested in getting more involved in the strategic planning process, what are some steps that they can take to do that?
Well, there's a great opportunity coming up in November. We're going to have a college-wide community poll that's going out that's going to list out every single goal and objective that arose to the strategic planning level. So each of the 4 college units elevated their top 5 goals, and these have been consolidated down into a list that's going to go out. Every single staff member, faculty member, student, community partner will have an opportunity to log in and indicate what priority level they feel each of those goals should be, so that we have a ranking of our top priorities. And then next spring, there'll be opportunities for even wider engagement as those that have been identified move forward in a project development process with wider partner engagement and solicitation of subject matter experts across the college coming together to really flesh out those goals and objectives into a fully articulated project plan.
So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, is you're going to be seeking feedback from everybody. Like all staff in the PCC community will have an opportunity to share their experiences and their ideas and thoughts about how we can improve some of those operations at PCC. So in your mind, what would success look like at the end of the strategic planning period?
Success for me is the most people possible participating in the process. I think that the exciting and optimistic thing about strategic planning is that you are able to identify a problem and then come up with a solution. I was a student at PCC 1,000 years ago, and when I first came on, I thought, this is amazing and huge and messy and wonderful all at the same time. And to me, it's very exciting to be able to say, okay, I love PCC. I love this community. I think we're making a real difference for our students. But there's this one thing that could work so much better it's exciting to be able to like actually fix that and make things continually move forward.
Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience today about the strategic plan, about the process?
Yes. So I am excited about the improvements that we've made to the strategic planning process. This is the first time we've tried this new system this time around, which has so much more engagement than we've had in the past. And I feel like we've already identified some ways in which we could be even better. So if you have an experience throughout the strategic planning process where you think, you know what, it would make way better experience if, for example, Sarah emailed me every 3 months to tell me what the status of the strategic planning process is. That's information that I would love to know and will absolutely incorporate. In July next year, we'll be sitting down and looking at the process and making improvements. So it's just a continuous process, and I'd love to hear everyone's feedback.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah. Again, this was Sarah Rose Evans talking to us about the strategic planning process here at PCC. My last question for you, Sarah, is what is the expected timeline for completion of this version?
Of the strategic plan?
Yeah.
So the next steps of the process, the next immediate steps in the process is the community poll is coming out November 11th to the 22nd. After that, the identified goals and objectives that have been identified to move forward will be sent to the board for approval, likely in the January board meeting. After that, we'll move to project development process in spring of 2025.
That's a pretty good timeline.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you heard it here, PCC community. This will take an effort from all of us. So if you have any thoughts, feedback, questions, or concerns, let Sarah know. Take the survey that comes out starting on November 11th and get involved to the level that you are comfortable doing so. Well, that's a wrap. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in. Our first season of On the Spot at PCC will feature bi-weekly episodes where we bring in guests from across the college to chat about what work they're supporting and answer your questions. Again, I'm host Danielle Gabriel, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you. We'll see you next time.